go ahead and kick things off with another quality joke.
Can't wait.
Again, this isn't one that I looked up, it just fruish and came to me, but I'm sure it exists previously. So, what does a cat say when it gets hurt?
Oh no, I already know this one.
Meow.
Meow. So stupid.
Pretty bad.
All right, that's bad. That's pretty bad. That's one I will tell my daughter when she gets home from camp today, though.
She'll be pumped.
Yeah, she'll love it.
Yeah, she'll actually laugh harder if she knew that I told you.
Yeah, in fact, I should wait for you to tell.
No. You take it away. Take it away. By all means. So the topic I wanted to talk about is a word that's near and dear to your heart. You're not wearing a shirt that has it right now, but you do have many shirts that have it on there.
Yeah.
And in lieu of the experience we had last Saturday night.
Oh man.
So what is freedom to you? And let's just go with that. What's freedom to you?
Yeah. So, well, let's talk about our experience Saturday night first. Does that sound all right?
That sounds great.
So Chase and I, we went to, this was my first time ever doing this, but we went to what do they call that? The trash car races over in a small town close to where we live, the trash car races. And I know a lot of you guys have probably been to them. I don't know where I've been living, but I've been missing out because when we got there, it was just like, it was so awesome to be like in kind of like the hometown feel of things. We show up, everybody's just happy to be there. And I mean, it's like your classic sort of like what you'd picture like the perfect redneck night to be,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
You know, like just big jacked up trucks, a plethora of mullets, like, and then we get into the arena and the dirt track is where the cars race, and the cars go around in this like muddy track, and it's like bumper cars with real cars that happens to be 12 laps, and whoever's car is still running wins. And then in between the races, in the middle of the like arena, that's in the middle of the track, they build like a whole bunch of berms and big tractor tires and stuff, and then they turn these kids loose with their beat up old trucks and just have them beat the crap out of the trucks going through mud and everything. And just being with the energy of the crowd, being like connected to the people that were there. I haven't seen that many American flags in one place in a long time.
Yeah.
And I was joking halfway and laughing and having fun, but on the other hand, I was like, it feels good to like respect the flag that flies for our country and what that flag actually represents and what it means and what it provides, at least for me in my life. And I even had a couple of like, you know, it's weird, you can find your most spiritual moments in the most random places. And I had a couple of really pretty deep spiritual, kind of deep emotional moments while watching a dude in a mullet jump a truck off a ramp, you know, like it was awesome, man. It was great just to think of like where we live at the time we live, with the freedoms that we have, to say the things that we want to say, to live the way that we want to live, to have the ability to make the choices that we can make on our own, of our own independence, like, it was just an awesome experience.
Oh, all around. Yeah. I would definitely back that up. And I appreciate you guys inviting us to come attend. I'd never been to one of those either. I've seen was it Demolition Derby before.
Yeah.
And while it has a similar energy, it is not the same thing.
No.
But I had some similar experiences. I mean, you and I were sitting on that back row, and we had, you know, the rest of the family sitting in tears before us, and there were so many points where I was dying laughing, and I'd look over and you were dying laughing at the same stupid thing that was happening. And there's kind of that sense of freedom too, where you're just able to like let loose.
Fully let it go.
Yeah, fully let go. I mean, there was one point where I at least had tears coming out of my face because of how bizarre and it just otherworldly that experience was relative to what's going on in my normal day-to-day.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I think it was such a contrast too for me to have those moments. And I love what you said about being able to fully let it go. I didn't realize how tightly wound my life has become. You know, you just go through the day-to-day grind, and depending on what we do with our lives, you know, if I follow a certain news feed for too long, then it starts to wind down that the world's falling apart, and I start seeing some of the political things going on in our world that I don't necessarily agree with, and that starts to wind me tighter, and I don't even realize that I'm stifling myself until we go to some place like that and have that full release where that laughter, like the laughter that we shared together and had, oh man, when that car fishtailed around that first turn and it shot mud like literally 50 feet right over the first 2 rows of people and just caked them in mud.
They stood up, they're all pissed off. What?
That part was like, and when I could not stop laughing, and after that, everything felt lighter. Everything felt freer. Like, and I thought, man, like, just thinking about what we've been through the last couple of years with the COVID stuff and then everything else after that, all the other riots and things that happen, and just the wrangling that's been going on in just our political discourse, all that stuff. Like, I don't think many people, in fact, I think I said this to you or to my wife or something, but I would love to take like a whole city, like go get the whole city of New York, urban population on top of each other, compressed, pressurized. Let's give them one night at the trash car races. And I guarantee you that crime rates go down in those big cities, because it's just like, oh, release, like, let it go. Like, it's okay to let it go.
Oh man, I could see that. I was thinking how cool it would be to take some of the young men that I work with, and go do something like that. I mean, I love seeing people get out in nature and come experience something like this, where you're moving your body, you're seeing all these different, you were talking about game signs earlier, little things like that, watching the berries and seeing on trees and shale rock and everything, like all the little things that make up the world around us in this kind of natural environment. That's one type of freedom, like this feeling right now, right? Looking out over the valley. And then having something like that where it's just energy, release. And kind of a communal experience, and having something kind of bigger that's going on. And it's almost like there's different ways to experience freedom.
Yes.
And so are there any others that really help you tap into your own identity or purpose, or even just to feel more liberation?
That's a good question. You know, as you're talking, I'm thinking about freedom, and my daughters want freedom to like stay on their phones all night, or to, you know, do whatever else they want. And I don't know that that's necessarily the right kind of freedom, but I'm thinking about something you said, that the right kind of freedom includes something bigger than us. You know, like there's a greater cause, or that even the communal element of being at the trash car races, like being with common humanity, you know, like being in that experience together with a group of people, that was part of the freedom of it all, which is interesting. And I think about like what freedom means in terms of what it means to live in our country. Like it's no argument that we are the most free country, most free society really that's ever existed on the face of the earth. And what does that actually mean? Because we still have laws, we still have boundaries, we still have, you know, expectations. But what we have, I think, is a set of principles that as a nation that we were founded on, that set of principles is what speaks freedom. The ability to not have a limit to what I can go and decide to do to pursue in my life. You know, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, being created equal with everybody else, being able to offer you the same sort of like, we all have our own track that we can all move to wherever we want, and we agree that that's good for you and it's good for me. You know, the ability to, and this is hard because we do have like different ideas on things, but the ability to allow people to worship whatever God they decide to worship according to the dictates of their own conscience. Like, all of that it's freedom, you know? And if we don't value that, we don't see it for what it is, you know, then we start to lose it, or we take it for granted, and then we live these miserable lives not realizing that we're sitting on maybe one of the best gifts we could possibly have. I don't know, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, man, there's a couple different directions that came in my head, and one of them is about a movie that Chelsea and I watched this past week. It's called The Whale. Have you ever?
The Whale.
Yeah, heard anything about it? So this is a movie with Brendan Fraser that came out, I don't know, maybe a couple years ago, and it's a guy that's probably 400 pounds that he is the actor for. Puts on this, you know, this bodysuit and do all this makeup and stuff, and it shows a week of his life. This isn't based on any true story or anything like that. A week of what his life was as a teacher, an online teacher, as a brother-in-law, as a father, as an ex-husband, and somebody that's getting proselyted to, actually, kind of funny. And one of the things that I felt while I was watching this movie is how shackled down he was by his own weight. And not necessarily that it was the weight, it was the addiction to food that he consumed. I felt so sad. Like, I felt really sad at different points. I mean, it's a heavy movie, not one that I would maybe recommend for everybody. It's a very thoughtful movie, and a lot of deep themes about, you know, religion, sexual identity, ton of information or scenes about relationships specifically, and communication, decision making, all of that. It's really interesting, but that's one of the biggest feelings that I came away with, is how we really do decide into or out of our own freedom and captivity. It's like whatever decision we make, it's towards one of those things as an individual. And so there's kind of this scale that you're talking about, where it's like, as a society, right? As a whole culture, like how are we navigating this concept of freedom and the interplay between each other, and it's also simultaneously decisions that we make individually.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that is so interesting to me, and this is essentially the work that we do, right, at Love Strong and elsewhere, is figure out how do we become more and more unshackled and live with greater freedom.
Yeah, I think that's what the essence of being wholehearted is living a free life, you know. And I love what you said there, Chase, because I'm thinking about the example you gave in the movie, or like several of our clients. Like, I would say that what we do, most of our work is trying to help people shake the chains of their own imprisonment, whether that was stuff that was done to them or whether that's stuff they've done to themselves, and to live lives of more freedom, right? And the interesting thing that sometimes, you know, my daughter wants to be on her phone for 5 hours, and I say no to her. If she can discipline herself to be on her phone for 10 minutes today instead of 5 hours, in the long run, she maintains more freedom of choice than if she stays on her phone every day for 5 hours and then is so addicted that she can't function without it.
It's a hard sell to a teenager.
It's a hard sell to a teenager, and it doesn't make sense until you've actually lived it out for a while and seen the freedom that comes. Or like you talk to any person who's like a recovering addict, who's had a significant addiction, and they understand in a different way the concept that you're talking about of my choice to be disciplined and my choice to make hard choices, even the ones that sometimes I don't like, for the greater good, is absolutely imperative for my overall freedom. You know, you and I can only get out and hike at least to the level we did, which isn't even as high as we wanted to go, because we have a certain level of self-care and a certain level of exercise and a certain level of fitness, and it's not great. Like, we should be up there, right. But this is our level, this is our limit of freedom today, right? And this allows us to be able to get out because we take some care of our bodies, right? If we took better care of our bodies, we would actually have a better view, and we'd be higher up, and we'd have more freedom to be in more wilderness that other people don't touch. Right?
The thing that's coming to my mind is that scene from Sandlot, and I don't know why, but when the vacuum blows up and that one kid comes down and he's like, he's the only one that got stuck in there. He's just coated in dust, and I blame myself. We've been going about this all wrong.
I blame myself. Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think that's true. Like, that's the beautiful thing about accountability with freedom is there's always something we can do to react, respond, change, grow. We still always have the freedom of choice, and making those choices either creates more freedom or it leads to more captivity.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell Dubs next time, hey, don't bring ribs, pulled pork, mac and cheese, and baked beans to my house at 9 p.m. right before I'm going to bed. Don't do that. Don't bring a whole platter of that to my house. You knew I was hungry.
You should set some boundaries. Set some boundaries with your buddy, man.
Yeah. About choked on a rib.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Serious. That's why we're stuck right here.
On the rocks.
Yeah.
Dang it.
That's a good thought today, Chase. And you know, I'm thinking about anyone who's listening to this, considering your own lives and what are the things that you have that you're maybe taking for granted, but also what are the things that you have at your fingertips to do for your own lives to instill more freedom, whether that's in physical means or emotional means, spiritual, any of the areas of life.
I think that's a really good point. And I know that, you know, kind of wrapping up, that's been on my mind recently with even trying to get into a better physical state so I can spend more quality time with my kids. Like, that's a huge value of mine.
Yeah.
And I want that to be significant and available in their lives. And so, you know, just to reiterate what you're saying, you know, figuring out what your values are and setting goals around those so you can have the freedom to hold on to that. Yeah. And to really like live fully in those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Discipline equals freedom, which is almost its own form of dialectic. Yeah. But yeah, that's a great concept. And thinking about that, like your kids are young and you keep taking good care of your body, you're going to create for them the ability to have experiences that they otherwise won't be able to have. You're going to take them 10 miles back in a mountain range somewhere and have them experience a lightning storm all by themselves with nowhere to turn to but God. And, you know, you're going to be able to teach them that they can feel their bodies and their hearts beating and feel the coolness of the air, and because they're way back up high in some mountain pass where there's still some snow glaciers or whatever else that is. And giving those opportunities to your kids, that's one of your values. It might be worth not eating the mac and cheese tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a good thought, Chase.
Amen.
Yeah. All right.
See you guys next time.